I'm with the lovely Elizabeth McQuade, coming from live from Canada. I've known Elizabeth for a number of years, and she has been my psychic, my clairvoyant, my woman for some time. So obviously, I have tremendous admiration for Elizabeth. Her work is really quite wonderful. And one of the many things I love and admire about Elizabeth is that she is never pretentious. She's never one of these people that's like, oh my God, this, and the wonderful. She's very practical. She works with our team. She's very down to earth. She's very humorous. She has a lot of, she gets the jokes from the guides, quite funny, passes it on, and is still very, very powerful. So again, I'm going to ask Elizabeth to tell us a little bit about her journey in coming into her intuitive own, because perhaps, unlike many of us, she was raised in a family of intuitives where they talked about this stuff all the time. But that isn't our case. So we kind of find our feet by ourselves often, and then slowly put pieces together and then develop. So Elizabeth, could you share a little bit of that?
Sure, I'll kind of keep it as brief as I'll give you the Coles Note version. But I do believe we're all intuitive, and I think we're all born intuitive. I think the thing that a couple of things from childhood that I'll touch on. I remember I saw a scenario play out in my mind where I saw my kindergarten teacher and on my first day of school, before my first day of school, and I remember telling my mother about it, and she wasn't too sure what I was talking about, but I was trying to say I met my teacher before I met my teacher. But when you're 5 too, I probably had a hard time conveying what I was feeling, but I knew exactly what I'd experienced. I think one of the things that kind of went through my life, which kind of made me think maybe I'm not quite normal, was the feeling sense. I could always pick up deeply what other people were feeling and what was going on in their bodies. And I didn't even actually really, I had a teacher in university once who asked our class, he said, is there anyone here who, when they listen to someone singing or a recording of someone singing, you can feel what's going on in their body? And I put my hand up, and no one else put their hand up. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was actually, I would say it was around the university time when I'd left home. We went to church every Sunday, but I found there were certain things within the structure of church I just didn't agree with from a young age. It didn't resonate with me. One of the things was that we all had this, we had to pray for forgiveness for our sins right away at the beginning of the service. And I was like, I haven't done anything wrong. I didn't feel I'd done anything wrong per se. So I remember that kind of started the session off. And I used to kind of wonder why angels weren't included a bit more, because I could feel that. And I remember thinking, why aren't they like a bit more of a focus? And also, lots of different things made me go, I don't quite agree with that as a kid. So I remember thinking, I should agree with this because this is what I'm being told from on the pulpit, but I don't agree with it. But I would say when I really started to kind of find like people who were like-minded was when I went to university, and I would go to bookstores, and I wouldn't go to the biology section. I would go to the New Thought or New Age or spiritual section, and I would read books, like just standing there. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. Like I was like I'd been starved my whole life from seeing this kind of viewpoint, but I'd felt it. I felt quite isolated, I think, in that respect. And so I just devoured novels because about, New Thought, New Age, spirituality, because it was like, oh, I'm home. And I started, when I was moved to Vancouver, I had a session with a psychic, and she's like, oh, I'm teaching an intuition development class. Why don't you join it? And I studied with her for a couple of years and then continued on having meetings at my house with different students, groups of students. And we just practiced and had fun and just, went in circles, and we just like if someone had a question, we all looked at it and we all gave our viewpoint, which was quite lovely because each person would give a slightly different viewpoint, and oftentimes would really make the picture really quite complete for that person. And we do energy healings. And it was just a really lovely time. And I never rushed it. I didn't push myself into going professionally. It just happened when I went to New Zealand, and I was shortly after we'd moved there. And I kept asking the universe, how can I best serve? Because I'd heard Oprah say that she'd asked that. And I kept asking, how can I best serve? How can I best serve? And then I stumbled across Body Talk, but it was on a trip back to Canada where I discovered it. Came back to New Zealand, and at that time, New Zealand was really quite Body Talk was really amazing. And there was so many practitioners and different teachers, most of them Canadian, ironically, coming to New Zealand. So I really launched myself into that, became a practitioner very soon on, and started doing Body Talk. But over the years, the intuitive work and energy work I'd done prior started, say at the beginning, it was all 100% Body Talk, the sessions that I was doing professionally. And then it was like 3/4 of the session was Body Talk, and then 1/4 was energy work. And then it flipped, and all of a sudden it was like 3/4 is energy work and 1/4 is Body Talk. And eventually I wasn't doing any Body Talk, and so I realized I had to change the name of what I was doing, because it's a holistic energy medicine was the name I got to call it, and intuitive messages, what Ann pushed me to do. So it was a nice suggestion on your part. So yeah, and since then it's been just lovely, and it does kind of, and I would say one of the things I love about the work I do is I'm always surprised by the information I get. I'm always like, oh, here's some information. Okay, I'll just pass it on. I hope it's valid. And and it is. And I actually am continually surprised that it's valid, or that
That's
the
right.
person, I'm always like, oh, whew, that's a good one. But and also, like you said, I love the sense that there's a good sense of humor. People's teams have a good sense of humor, even if it's heavy stuff, because life is joyful, or we are joyful as a race. I think a human species, or I think, or from what I got once when I asked, humans are light, love, and joy. That's our essence as a race. But yeah, so that's the kind of Coles Note version.
That's a beautiful pathway, and you kept on it. And again, another one of the many things I like about you when you are talking to people about intuition as well, is that you ground your discussion of it not in all of these, I don't know, theosophy concepts and all this, but in people's actual experience of intuition. How it actually works with people, from the professional intuitive to the kindergartner, the pre-kindergartner who's going to need a teacher. So would you mind, amplifying that on a little bit for people?
Sure. So
what do you regard as intuition, for example, and then
yeah,
how is
well,
it experienced
one
commonly?
thing, like for instance, today I had a client, and I was saying to them, and I think I've said this before once or twice, is like, I believe everybody can do what I do. I totally think they can. Sometimes it's just a matter of belief, practice, and also willingness to kind of explore something that's slightly uncharted. But I don't think I know that Indigenous cultures, it's not as big of a deal like what I would do or you would do. It's actually, everybody would kind of do that to a certain extent. And probably the shaman of their village would be more about doing a lot of physical healing or redirecting energies. But I think our society, we're not asked to just sit and be still and receive information. We're never ever taught that. We're taught to listen to whoever's speaking to you, whether it's a teacher or a minister or a priest or your parents. And they all have good things to say, I'm sure. But the thing is, we're not taught how to naturally connect. And little children are not naturally connect. Like 0 to 4 or 5, they're in this, we consider in this other world, or they're in their own little world. Well, they're actually quite connected to source and quite connected to the earth. And it's usually around the time you go into school that they start to get told that we look for our wisdom outside of us, or we have to listen to the other person who knows more than us, when sometimes they actually don't know more than us. But I do agree with, we have a lot to learn, and children need a village, and we need to learn from different people. but I think that one of the things that I would like to see in the future for people in general, or society in general, is that we really do work on giving the children space for kind of a structure of meditation, or a structure where they can kind of go, where do you feel that when you know, or we're looking at that person that doesn't feel good. Do you feel something in your body when you look at that? Is there something that you feel you want to do to help that person? And like a classroom teaching from the beginning, so that because I said to this client today, I said, I look forward to the day when everybody does what I do, so that I don't do it. I can do something different. Do you know what I mean? And that would be like, you know, an ideal situation on the planet where everyone is listening to their intuition. Everyone is feeling their body and going, what is it that you want, that you need today, body? Or, yeah. So that's what I think we're all capable. It's just having a structure and a pathway.
All right.
Like a class like yours. Like, yeah, there you go.
Just a workshop.
Yeah, a workshop,
But,
yeah.
Series. Well, Elizabeth, we might be reaching the end of the YouTube limit. So I'd like us to immediately do another video,
Okay.
if you wouldn't mind.
Sure,
And
do you
we'll
want,
talk
yeah.
a bit about the various ways intuition works with people, because it doesn't always work with everyone exactly the same way, even though there's a lot of different components to it.
Right.
So possibly
Okay.
we'll just, immediately go to the next one.
Sounds good. Okay, well, it was a pleasure talking with you,
Wonderful.
and I'll talk to you shortly.
Yes, you will.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.